The countdown is on. Everything you need to get at the end of the market day.
Big tech earnings kick off later this afternoon.
Iliad is coming out right now. We have take two numbers back to the markets, right? Our bread and butter.
Nvidia is one of the best stories in the tech space.
That actually matters a whole lot more.
It might shock some of your viewers. You're watching the close.
Get ahead of tomorrow's trading with the close. Weekdays on Bloomberg. Context changes everything. Bloomberg brings you breaking news 24 hours a day. Powered by 2,900 journalists and analysts in more than 120 countries across the globe. Bloomberg Television. Context changes everything.
Definitely bound. Let's call it 40 minutes away. Equities positive by 0.6%. PPI coming in just a little bit softer, going into CPI tomorrow morning. Some movers, some morning movers. There's Manus Chronic. Hey, Manus.
Jonathan, very good day to you. KB Homes, sort of very personification of the American dream, John ownership, and it's on fire, quite literally. Net orders soared 41%, revenue of $2 billion. This is the real personification. Buyers continue to demonstrate a desire for home ownership. Here's the thing, even though rates are at 7% for a mortgage, 60% of the orders that they delivered had mortgage concession, and they will continue to use it. A deal on the slate for H&E. You've got United Rentals adding to their portfolio in construction and industrial, paying $3.4 billion in cash, 106%. Oh, to be a share owner in that. I'll leave you with a view on Signet. This is the owner of Sales and Jared on the street, the jewelry retail fronts. This is the worst day for them. If we open here in 5 years, people are trading down. They're trading down in terms of jewelry and gifts. Jonathan.
And I appreciate it. That stock getting hammered down 15%. Just to give you a flavour of what's coming up on the calendar, your trading diary for the rest of this week. Tomorrow, we'll get CPI and big bank earnings kicking off with JP Morgan, Citi, Goldman, and Wells Fargo on Thursday. Earnings continue with Bank of America and Morgan Stanley. Plus, we'll get retail sales and another round of jobless claims. And on Friday, we'll get housing starts. Also keeping an eye on the fires in Los Angeles as firefighters brace for dangerous Santa Ana winds to worsen conditions. Joining us now on that front is Bill Waddell of AccuWeather. Bill, give us the latest, please.
Uno.
Yes, we're at a command post with the National
¿Por qué no
Guard
se
and
escucha?
firefighters. We're talking about yet again another rare case of a particularly
No se
dangerous
escucha.
situation for red flag warning. It's usually reserved for extreme events every few
Ya,
years.
ahora
We've
sí.
had several in recent months. We are expecting wind gusts 60 to 80 miles an hour in some places today. The big concern is those winds could rekindle or start moving to plains where there's containment with these fires. Also, the threat that ash and embers can be carried miles through the air, landing in these neighborhoods. So we've been with firefighters up in the hills where I was yesterday. They were dousing the homes that were spared by the fire, trying to prevent them from catching fire if any of those embers blow into the neighborhoods. But just seeing all of the businesses that were destroyed, the homes lost, I got to tell you, I saw a lot of vehicles, including electric cars, that were destroyed, and those molten metals and debris just all down the streets. We're talking about a massive cleanup ahead once these fires are contained. AccuWeather's preliminary estimate for the total damage and economic loss from these fires now at $250 billion to $275 billion. There's going to be a massive ripple effect, economically speaking, not just here in California, but across the nation. Our experts at AccuWeather are telling us this is going to make the insurance
Una semana
areas even worse, and they tell us that preliminary estimate that may climb.
El día de hoy, esto todavía son los que me interesan a mí. Todavía no ha cambiado.
Of AccuWeather, truly a perfect storm. And Bill talked about the economic impact. That's going to distort the data, influence the data, impact it for months to come.
Yeah, currently we're
No, no, no.
data, of course.
También hay un fair value gap ahí.
That's the least of our concerns. We hope that people are safe, and frankly, we're concerned about some of the
El interés mío.
what actually is getting burned. Nonetheless, going forward, how do you move forward when you have to pay these kinds of costs for disasters that are incurred around the country, and how much ammunition do you have to really make sure that people can get back to homes and keep going with their lives? Well, Speaker McCarthy said to me last week, this is going to be a day one priority. When they want to maybe declare the border a disaster, they're going to have to put a lot more money into
Esta vez no llegué ahí, pero está cerca. So,
And at the
va a
same
terminar no
time,
ese
right
volume
now,
imbalance ahí también.
with hurricane effects, we have a lot of crisis right now in this country and a lot of
Y ya,
crisis.
el fair value gap también de 4 horas.
Big rebuild effort about to take place in California. If this
Cuatro
thing
horas.
ends sometime soon, we can actually focus on that, Lisa, but at the moment, we can't.
Yeah, and it raises
Está reaccionando de aquí. Eso
flexibility
interesante.
after the crisis is over. The flexibility of the labor market.
Que seguir viendo.
You know, with Villa Homes and this idea that how do you hire enough people to actually build those, to build those homes at a time where we've already seen shortages on that level? Or on the flip side, are we looking at the potential loss of economic momentum in regions like this? I mean, really,
Puede estar reaccionando de aquí.
coming down the pike.
Already expensive to do it, already incredibly labor constrained, and it's going to be even more so in the months to come, I'm sure. Coming tomorrow, your lineup looks like this. Joe Cassidy of RBC will catch up with Liz Ann Saunders of Charles Schwab, Peter Chia of Academy Securities, and David Kelly of JP Morgan.
Y ya en una hora tomamos más caer.
What a morning. You'll hear from
Es lo que estamos cerca.
the biggest banks on the planet. At 8:30,
Si se lleva esa liquidez y va a ser fair value gap, yo estaré buscando una venta.
morning, which is why you should all be here at work, present, logged onto a Bloomberg terminal, and not on a ski slope somewhere in Europe.
I agree.
You enjoy it.
Appreciate it. What a send off.
I'll see you next week in New York City. Thanks for choosing Bloomberg TV. This was Bloomberg Surveillance.
Welcome to the world of decentralized finance.
Massive outperformance from Bitcoin.
Bloomberg is covering all the
Está razonando de ese
tectonic shift emanating
abre del día también. Ya ponerlo.
Crypto shouldn't be part of
Ponerlo.
transaction. Really a record-breaking moment. Crypto VC is back and the technology.
It's really the beginning of a global on-chain economy.
And if America doesn't embrace it, we're going to be left behind.
Bloomberg Crypto, only on Bloomberg.
To succeed in Wall Street,
Yeah.
what skills do you need? You need to be somebody that calls people on the back, people that you have to be tough, you have to be fighting people all the time. What are the skills that really take to succeed in Wall Street?
Great question. Of course, you have to work hard. So I can tell you what I found for me, and it's probably counting. I had to stick out, which is interesting because I made the decision early. Being really the only one, I already stuck out, and I thought I might as well double down on that. I can't hide. So how did I do that? Is by being a contrarian. And I refused as a research analyst to ever publish research reports that said me too. It said, oh, IBM reported earnings. They came in 2 cents ahead. One of the
Ya eso a mí no me funciona porque ya lo usó. Me cae.
Big calls on big stuff. My very first piece of research I published.
Se puede ser
At the time, nobody did it. I still
target para ahorita.
And when I was right, that elevated me. And David, I've done that as a research analyst, but I did it in business as well. Here's the business strategy. If everything's fine, just keep your head down and execute. Every once in a while, you have a big insight, and you can build an entire business, in fact, an entire industry around it.
Estos son los high del horno. Está muy cerca de ahí. Son. Estaré mirando eso.
About artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is going to enable you and others to say, we have enough information to know exactly what something is going to be.
Ya lo se lo llevó.
Bring it or not. Artificial intelligence is finding a way
Vamos a ver.
to do this.
Si viene por aquí, me da un cero por aquí.
Is getting much better
Lo estáis viendo.
which allows us to make
Sí, como.
decisions on our own. It's also a great opportunity to service business better in terms of call centers and different ways of which using robotics and other AI will be very helpful. But it is an emerging practice within
Tenemos una
the industry
inversion ahí dentro de
quickly. So it's also going to present risks that other companies
el gap del día también.
that use large language models and making
En 15 minutos.
so it's complicated, but it
Cosa que yo miro.
benefiting the business.
Ahora cuando vaya bajando de temporalidad, podéis leer el mercado bien. Hacia dónde estoy.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute geopolitical news whenever and wherever it happens.
Pero cuando se lleve esos highs,
And this is Bloomberg.
cuando se lleve esos highs, yo estaré buscando. Me gustaría como buscar un cero por esos highs para seguir vendiendo. Y ya por aquí, entonces sería para comprar si no se lleva los highs.
Simon and Bloomberg open interest starts right.
Coming up, another report that Trump's economic team is considering a gradual approach to the tariff hikes. The dollar dips on that Bloomberg scoop. The latest word on tariffs comes as trade
Ese análisis yo lo miro en mi otra computadora y ahora yo me pongo aquí para ejecutar.
CPI report. Also,
Ahí ready.
as we kick off
También Michael lo punto más cerca de aquí.
JP Morgan, the bank names Jennifer Pipsack as its new chief operating officer, replacing Daniel Pinto, who will retire at the end of 2026. First off, let's take a look at where markets are trading. Yesterday, we actually climbed up and finished in the green. Right now, we're looking at another gain for S&P futures, about 0.4%. As we kick off earnings season, NASDAQ futures up a little bit more than 0.5% right now. And the 10-year yield, although it's climbing a bit, it is still holding at the same level we saw roughly yesterday, 478, to lend your money to the U.S. government for 10 years. Shanali, what are the stocks that we're watching today? I know there's some deal news.
Yeah, there sure is. We're looking at H&E Equipment Services first, though, because it is soaring after United Rentals agreed to buy it for $3.4 billion in cash and expand its fleet of construction equipment. You do see this now doubling to $90 a share pre-market. Just incredible here. Deal flow just keeps coming into 2025. Also watching KB Home up more than 13%. They reported revenue and deliveries for the fourth quarter that beat estimates. We are in earnings season in addition to deal season, apparently. And Signet is plummeting because the owner of Pay Jewelers cut its fourth quarter sales forecast, citing consumers who opted for lower price points this holiday season. We have already been seeing hints of that, Matt. And now let's see how much that continues into this earnings season.
Yeah, consumer is a big question. Actually, the NFIB, National Federation of Independent Businesses, monthly small business optimism index jumped to the highest level since 2018. It's almost back to the level that we saw this month 8 years ago, before Donald Trump took office the first time. NFIB
Estos son los high que yo estoy mirando.
expectations for economic growth and lower inflation and positive business conditions have increased in anticipation of pro-business policies, but Renaissance macroeconomy
Estos highs
an
los estaré
important
mirando.
distinction between now and 8 years ago is that the consumer doesn't appear to be confirming the move in small business sentiment. In December, consumer expectations slid to a 5-month low.
Está dentro de un fair value gap también
Equities, the backup
en una
rates,
hora.
and the higher price of oil, it's unlikely that the consumer is going to come out swinging to kick off 2025.
Right, if you think that the
Interesante.
10-year rate of almost 5% is high, you're a consumer with a credit card rate of more than 25%. That's really high.
Yeah.
And so when we think about big banks earnings season, we're going to be thinking about whether we're seeing those delinquencies rising, the consumer actually weakening. It is a busy season. There's political news. Of course, the confirmation hearing started. There's a lot of rumors around how the Trump administration will deal with everything from TikTok to tariffs. What are you watching?
Yeah, I mean, all of that stuff makes it a very busy day. Of course, we also got PPI, producer price inflation data this morning. It did come in below estimates. We want to break down the reading with Bloomberg's Michael McKee. He's going to look into the details for us. So, Mike, what do we see?
Well, we see some good news for the warm-up act for tomorrow's CPI, I guess, with the PPI headline coming in at half what was anticipated, just up 0.2 during the month. That puts the year-over-year at 3.3%. Also, slow growth in the core and the core ex-trade. They're up 3.5% and 3.3% better than expected in both cases. So the markets are relatively happy. What did it? Well, a decline in food prices was one of the reasons that we saw prices restrained in the PPI. Overall, down 0.1%. But look at this. Donald Trump said he was elected to bring down egg prices. They had gone up 55% in November. That really is because of the bird flu, not because of any Biden administration policy.
Ya esos son mis levels para el día de hoy.
3%. Joe Biden goes out on
Y yo veré es qué haría el precio en esos levels.
Everybody is waiting for. That's the big show, the CPI.
Probable que de aquí reaccione para seguir subiendo, pero hay que estar observando.
Not as much as was expected for the PPI, but
Hoy va a ser una de esas sesiones que
in the long run. The thing about the CPI is it's shown this
hay que mantenerse con el riesgo bajito porque
CPI prices, the CPI index rise into the
son sesiones que pueden ser muy manipuladas. O si no veo algo claro, yo no voy a entrar a un trade.
Inflation taking off again. Same pattern seems to be in place this year. Do we see that continue or not? That's going to be the real question tomorrow.
We're at the part of the cycle where I feel like you really have to break it down into components now. to. I was looking at Cameron Price. I love how he put this. Once bitten, twice shy. Could be the reason we didn't see that bond market reaction to the modest data today, even with services inflation showing some optimism there. What do you make of that? Where should investors be looking in terms of the component pieces tomorrow?
Well, tomorrow you have to look at the usual suspects, but particularly housing. Also airlines. Airline fares up big in the PPI, and used cars expected to decline or to post just a small increase after a big increase last month. But it's the PCE that the Fed is on, and some of the components in here were pretty good. Portfolio management up just 0.2%. Now that what has driven a lot of PPI inflation and into the PCE number. And that would be interesting to compare with recent wow. Bonus season is banking. We'll see how much of that PCE number is going to be absolutely reflected when you and I face the inside the wow between you and the CPI and you and the bank. Is that kind of labor cost inside that banker bonus rate? Yeah. Michael G, we will spotlight CPI with you tomorrow. It's not all about bank earnings, although it's like Shinali's Super Bowl. Wells Fargo Investment Institute head of global market strategy, Paul Christopher, joins us now to talk about what's going on in these markets. And Paul, I'm going to say, last week on Friday, going into the weekend, it felt really troubling after the good news that we saw in the jobs market, the spike in rates and the fears about inflation seemed to come to a head, and I thought the market was really at a turning point. Did you feel that too in terms of the equity indexes turning down?
Well, I mean, the markets got this way in December too, around the inflation report and then the subsequent Fed meeting. And it seems like every time the markets get a little bit disappointed in terms of Fed rate cuts, we see some selling, but then the trend resumes. So no, it wasn't really bummed out on Friday. Looks like a buying opportunity to us because we've got a tight labor market, one that's normalizing but still tight. That drives services, and services will drive wages, and wages will ultimately drive inflation. So our inflation forecast of 3.3%, we think stocks like that for 2025, and so we're looking to buy.
How do you bring in kind of the uncertainty here around tariff strategy? Because ultimately there's still a concern about what kind of inflationary impact that could cause. Where do you stand?
Yeah, that's a big unknown, but you have to take the whole picture. So first of all, the whole policy picture is tariffs are negative, yes. Immigration restrictions are negative for the economy. Yes, that's also true. But then you've got deregulation and probably, we think, very probably, an extension of the 2017 tax cuts. And both of those are positive. So how do you know which one is larger? Well, maybe we don't know yet because we haven't seen all the details. This morning's hint that he's going to phase in tariffs, that would be a very positive factor. But then go to an even bigger picture where you put those policy unknowns against an economy we think is still pretty strong. Consumers may not have finished the year as strongly as we would like, or coming into the year as strongly as we would like, but we think they will drive the economy this year. So will the policy uncertainties be enough to derail that economy? We think all things taken together, no.
I was reading a Neil Dutta note earlier, his concerns about the consumer with falling stocks, rising rates, higher oil prices. Shinali brings up the point that, there's so much credit card debt, and a lot of that is over 25% interest. I know auto loans that I look at all the time are double digits. Isn't the consumer going to face a lot of headwinds this year?
Consumers have been facing headwinds now for a couple of years, and that was one thing we got wrong in 23 was looking too hard at some of that aggregate data and not breaking it down a little bit more into quintiles. If you look at the lowest two quintiles, yeah, they've been holding their breath underwater now for a couple of years since 22, 23, but the upper quintiles, the upper income quintiles have done much better, especially that top quintile that especially can gain from higher stock prices. So they can turn those gains into spending, and that's helping to drive the economy. So you've got this real divergence going on. You see the same thing between small businesses and larger businesses. The larger businesses have been driving things. So we do like large cap stocks here, and we do like the consumer overall to continue driving things.
So if you're concerned about kind of the bottom two quintiles in terms of wealth and income in the United States and their ability to draw consumer spending, then what about kind of the second to top? I think a lot of investors are looking around and saying, when does the pain start to spread in terms of the way the consumer is able to put that extra dollar to work?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So, if you start moving down the income quintiles from the top towards the bottom, the one, let's say the second one from the top, or the one right next to the top, that's one where you still have wage gains that are in that 3 to 4% range. And if inflation can stay between 3 and 3.5%, well, then you're basically netting out a positive gain in purchasing power every year, or and on a monthly basis too, for those consumers. And then you go down another quintile and they get the same benefit, the same tailwind. So it's really those consumers on the bottom who've overborrowed. Maybe they're close to delinquency. Maybe they're having trouble making even the minimum payments, and sympathies to them. But in terms of the overall economy, it's those other quintiles that are going to really drive things by either wage growth over inflation or with capital gains that turn into spending.
Hey, I'm looking at your top 5 portfolio ideas for 2025. Your cross assets, so it's not just stocks, right? Prepare for abundant liquidity. You point out position for a cyclical economy, but remain tilted towards the U.S. expand opportunities in AI, be careful on extending risk. But one that I think is really interesting is rethink investment income. What do you mean by that? Is that just taking advantage of these higher rates?
Yeah, well, that's a big part of it. Investors have really become accustomed to what I might call the comfort food of income, which is to go to CDs, to go to short-term treasuries, and especially money markets. Money market fund aggregates are huge. They're off the historical charts. But that's kind of comfort food because you don't see a lot of risk in those, and you get that 4 or 5% rate that you've been longing for many years now. But that rate we don't think is going to hold up as well. It's not going to rise as much as what we're going to see in your ability to lock in those long-term rates here. So you lock in long-term rates that investors haven't seen for years and years, maybe even 15 years. You lock in those rates now, maybe doing some dollar cost averaging a little bit at a time each month as rates gradually move higher. And then you add to that from the equity side. As long as rates don't get much above 5%, and we don't think they will, then we think dividends will become, and it will remain an important source of not only income, but income growth for investors. So put those two together and kind of put that comfort food aside.
Wells Fargo Investment Institute Head of Global Market Strategy, Paul Christopher, we thank you so very much for breaking down the complications of this market. Coming up, there has been an extraordinary amount of movement on Wall Street at the top level. JP Morgan COO Daniel Pinto announces his retirement. We're going to discuss his replacement and what it means for Jamie Dimon's succession plans. JP Morgan reacting to market that. Stick with us. This is Bloomberg.
David Weston, join me for the next generation of Wall Street Week, telling stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. Each week, we'll go on the road, look at what lies behind the headlines today, and what will likely be the headlines tomorrow.
The bubble now is a mission.
Done nothing but grow immensely. That's an extraordinary thing.
We need to be the change that we want to see.
Watch the all-new Wall Street Week. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
Why does this business model work? Because it's virgin space. Never been done before. And will never be done again. When you step back and you look at something that's being golf, financial institutions being the way it has been for 53 years without change. In 1993, I stepped back and said, okay, this is not right. It's doing the same old Groundhog Day. Everything's the same. Players are a pass-through entity. They're not getting any equity built in their day. Once they're done playing, they're out. I said, that's just not right. When you have to build a sustainable model, you need to have these players, the world best, the best of the best. You need to give them equity into the future. You need to give them a vision of where they need to go and how they're going to get there.
It's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We'll show you what's happening in ETFs like no one else. ETF IQ, only on Bloomberg. U.S. tech is influencing global markets.
Technology is driving business across Europe.
In Asia, betting on tech.
Getting out of high interest to look at what's making headlines around the world. Hot, dry winds pummeling Los Angeles and areas of Southern California. Still, a new blaze broke out in Ventura County overnight, but authorities managed to keep that fire from growing. Crews are struggling to contain the flames in Los Angeles that have killed at least 24 people. Wind gusts now expected to be as high as 75 miles per hour. Those blazes have scorched 40,000 acres and continue. Some of TikTok's 170 million users in the U.S. are flocking to two other Chinese social media apps. Little Red Book is one, Lemon8 is another. The apps have taken over the top two positions on Apple's App Store download charts in the U.S. ahead of an impending ban on TikTok here. The hashtag TikTok refugee has garnered over 44 million views. And NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang is embarking on a trip to China this week. He's visiting major cities at a time when Beijing is investigating his company's domestic presence, and Washington puts new curbs on NVIDIA's AI chip exports. It's unclear if they'll be meeting with Chinese officials during the trip. NVIDIA has declined to comment. And Ares has amassed around 30 billion euros of capital for its latest direct lending fund in Europe. The new fund is the largest of its kind in the region. In fact, Ares has secured the highest level of investor demand for any private credit fund on record, according to a statement seen by Bloomberg. Nolly?
We're going to go over to some of the biggest news on Wall Street this year so far. It's early yet, but JP Morgan's longtime COO, Daniel Pinto, very responsible for a lot of the big gains they've made in the trading and investigation, and announces that he will retire at the end of 2026. Jennifer Pipsack will replace him, but when it comes to planning for Jamie Dimon's succession, she said, according to a spokesman, that she isn't interested in the CEO role for now. Anyways, Bloomberg senior finance reporter Sridhar Natarajan joins us. But for now, I'm hung up on that. You have Joe Evangelista, who's of course, the spokesman for JP Morgan, saying she's not interested in all forces. And then with a lot of pomp and circumstance otherwise, clearly, everyone's looking at succession planning at JP Morgan. Jamie Dimon has stopped saying 5 years, at least for now. So what does this mean in terms of the new guard rising?
If Joe's statement had ended that she's not interested in being CEO, it would be much clearer for us, and the clarity would have been nothing's clear at all JP Morgan. But by also adding this clause about we don't know this at this time. We don't know whether that means in 6 months when Daniel Pinto steps on from the role of both president and CEO, at least those titles, and relinquishes those titles, will Jen Pizak be more interested then? Let's take it at face value right now. Right. We should take it at face value right now, and the clear signal they're trying to send is, even though with the slew of changes that they've made today, various executive moves that we're seeing at JP Morgan today, Jen Pizak's clearly saying, I don't want to be successor to Jamie Dimon. So who will be the successor of Jamie Dimon? The hit by the bus candidate Daniel Pinto is leaving end of next year. Marianne Lake, another likely candidate, at least in today's announcement, nothing's changing with her role, nothing's changing with Mary Erdogan's role. So we really don't have clarity at that front. So only thing we can perhaps say with certainty is Jamie Dimon isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Well, for now.
Right, he's not stepping down.
No, of course not. And he he appears to be in great shape. Investors hang on every word out out of his mouth. He's unquestionably the king of Wall Street, but he is turning 69 in March. Wouldn't it be in the best interest of his shareholders for him to lay out a clear succession plan? And I think JP Morgan will argue that a number of changes that they've made, not just today, but going back the last couple of years, are all aimed towards getting that right. But when you have one of the leading candidates saying, I'm not really interested in being CEO, it doesn't really make Jamie's job easier. And also remember, I think Jamie Dunn is probably having a lot of fun on top. I don't think he's in a rush to leave the stage. And I think still you don't have clarity below him, still you are not certain who can actually take on that mantle. You say King of Wall Street, but definitely, most certainly Dean of Banking, until you're not certain who can step into those shoes. I think it makes more sense for JP Morgan for Jamie Dimon to stick around as well.
Well, let's kind of take a Goldman playbook for a minute for JP Morgan. Typically, you want to have a few seats warm, right? Just in case one leaves, you want to put people in competition with each other because what's a good succession without a good fight? And so if you're now looking at just Jennifer Pipsack, who else are you looking at JP Morgan? Because she has been elevated so much that you wonder if she's the only real candidate.
And that's what we would have said, and that's what I would have said before I read Joe's statement, because when you read the announcement today, it's clear that there's only one clear winner, only one person getting a real big promotion, because Daniel Pinto is the second most important executive at JP Morgan, the largest bank in the country. So Jen Pizak, for all measures, was clearly the biggest winner coming out of this announcement, at least not the big winner from the perspective we care about as to whether we can call her the anointed successor, because she's rushing to say she's not interested in being CEO. And the other interesting thing to me is she's taking on the COO title, not the president title. So when Pinto relinquishes that title in June, I'm interested in seeing who gets that. Do they also give that title to Jen Pizak, or do they elevate someone else to be the president or co-president? Because then we're talking the Morgan Stanley model. Why do I bring up Morgan Stanley? Because that's the next biggest bank. Most recent banks have gone through a succession like that. At the time, they had a COO, John Truzan, and two co-presidents. He was one of those two co-presidents that picked to eventually became the CEO, not the COO. So you could get more clues down the road.
And Morgan Stanley, a technical case for a succession run well.
James Gorman now running that at Disney too. That well.
All right. Awesome. I have a feeling we're going to hear more from you in the next couple of days. Kickoff bank earnings. Thanks very much, Sridhar Natarajan. Covers the banks for us here at Bloomberg. Tune into our exclusive conversation, by the way, with Daniel Pinto from Davos. That's next Wednesday at 6 a.m. Eastern. This is Bloomberg.
The countdown is on. Everything you need to get the edge at the end of the market day.
Big tech earnings kick off later this afternoon.
Iliad is coming out right now. We have take two numbers back to the markets, right? Our bread and butter.
NVIDIA is one of the best stories in the tech space. That actually matters a whole lot more. It might shock some of you. Watching close.
Get ahead of tomorrow's trading with the close. Weekdays on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
Bringing you up-to-the-minute geopolitical news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm Stephen Engel at the Forbidden City in Beijing, and this is Bloomberg.
Good morning. This is Bloomberg Surveillance.
Welcome back to the opening trade.
This is Bloomberg Technology.
This is the Asia trade.
This is Wall Street Week.
Welcome to Bouncing Home.
This is Bloomberg Television.
Bloomberg Invest is back. Join me, Shonali Basak, and the industry's most influential people for a comprehensive view across financial markets. Hear what a second Donald Trump presidency means for the economy, how AI is being monetized by investors, and the next big risks facing the private credit industry. Bloomberg Invest, March 4th and 5th in New York City. Register your interest to attend at bloomberglive.com/invest. Middle East and Africa. Vibrant resources and high-yield investment opportunities abound. Join me on Horizon Middle East and Africa with stories, newsmakers, and insight from this exciting region. Now, weekdays, only on Bloomberg. There's a lot going on today. Markets trying to rebound after that PPI data, and of course, ahead of CPI tomorrow, and of course, bank earnings as well. S&P futures hanging below 6,000 all year. It's painful to watch, actually, but it's up 0.5%. There's other things going on as well.
There's a lot going on. We have Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing, and we've already heard not only his opening statements, but some senators, including Jack Reed, saying, Pete, this is a direct quote, I do not believe that you are qualified. So that's probably a statement you're going to hear from quite a few senators today.
Yeah, but it really comes down to what certain Republican senators feel, particularly Joni Ernst. That is going to be one a lot of people are watching out for. Of course, this is another test of the slim Republican majority that you're looking at in Congress, and even their inability to agree over some of the most critical posts in this country.
Yeah, we are going to hear from Anne-Marie Horton in about an hour as this hearing progresses, so we'll get you up to date on Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing to become the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America. Up next, Raquel Oden joins us from HSBC. This is Bloomberg.
You are also an owner, I should have pointed out, of three major sports teams. That's right. First woman, I understand it, first woman to own three major, stake in three major sports teams. Is that right?
Yes, someone say African Americans.
Ay,
Then of I guess, the Washington Wizards and the Washington Caps about maybe buying the Washington Mystics, which is the female women's basketball team. And what did you say?
Well, first of all, it's a Poland. He did come to me and Susan O'Malley and they said, hey, Poland says, look, I want you to be the face of the Washington Mystics. And I said, what do you mean the face of? He says, I want you to buy this team. He is this helpless family.
estoy viendo que el S&P 500 se llevó ese high, pero el NASDAQ todavía no se lo ha llevado. So, por eso voy a estar observando a ver si quiere dar un setup de vender cuando abro. Pero no de una vez, voy a estar observando porque puede llevar ese high ahora. Aquí dentro de este range no me gustaría como coger ningún trade. So, quiero ver que salga de aquí. O para acá, o para acá. Nada más si sale de aquí. Y depende de lo que haga de aquí, voy a estar mirando a ver si busco ese sell sign. Pero mientras tiene ese rango, como que tengo que esperar.
Bringing you up to the minute geopolitical news whenever and wherever it happens. I'm David Guerra in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and this is Bloomberg.
We are moments away from the start of trading. This is Bloomberg Open Interest. I'm Matt Miller. We do see futures up this morning after the equity market gained yesterday at the close. S&P futures right now up about 0.5%. NASDAQ
Se quedó
futures
exactamente en ahí,
kicking off earnings season.
50%.
$3 trillion worth of companies.
O sea, es bueno tú entrar ahí, pero a mí no me gusta entrar es cuando el mercado abre de una vez.
A lot busier.
Pero se ve una buena venta,
Tomorrow, which now is going to be all
poniendo el stop ahí arriba.
Bell down at the NASDAQ market. I believe
Sí, sí,
we're
te
going
la
to
coge.
see somewhere.
Ya mucho punto para mí.
See the ETF group ringing the bell. Defiance, yes, at the NASDAQ market side. Looking for Sylvia Jablonski there. I know she's going to ring the opening bell. Creative Spirit ringing the bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Looks like a slow news day when you check this out, but actually there's a ton going on with a report out by Bloomberg News that Donald Trump is going to gradually bring tariffs.
Una buena venta.
This is
Al menos está aquí.
his advisors who have
Si lo hubiese cogido aquí.
according to people familiar. They haven't told him yet. We'll see how he responds on Truth Social.
Pero como le dije, a mí no me gusta coger trades. El mercado abriendo.
The equipment soaring after United Rentals agreed to buy up to $3.4 billion in cash and further
Cuando dentro de ese rango, como que no me llama mucho la
construction
atención.
equipment that adds to the $15
Yo voy a
billion
esperar.
deal we saw from J&J yesterday.
No voy a esperar.
Some actual reporting out in terms of earnings.
We sure do, but I gotta say, the only thing I love more than a deal is an all-cash deal. There's nothing better than that uncertainty on the table. Anyways, KB Home, speaking of earnings, up 11% as the market opens. They reported revenue and deliveries for the fourth quarter. That beat estimates. Analysts say that the beat was driven in large part by cost-cutting, buybacks, and a lower tax rate. Also watching Signet, it's plummeting after the owner of Pay Jewelers cut its fourth quarter sales forecast.
Ya de ahí se puede devolver para arriba otra vez. Por eso, cogerlo aquí es riesgo-beneficio, no hace sentido.
As the market opens, people are worried about consumer, and as we think about consumer companies, worth more than $7 trillion are reporting earnings.
Yo voy a esperar. Dentro de ese rango no me llama la atención coger un trade ahí.
Well, particularly what we know now about consumer. Yeah, I think this week
Ese es el abre del día. El gap ya lo tocó. Se puede racionar de ahí.
we have some of the biggest
Va a seguir rompiendo hacia arriba.
There are a lot of catalysts this season. We have revival in deal making. We get
S&P no se ha llevado este lado, pero el NASDAQ sí.
so there is
So vamos a ver si crea ese divergent ahí.
obviously the incoming presidency is a big boost to banks. We've seen it in banks' reactions so far. Obviously, I'm most excited about deregulation, about friendlier tax policies. So we've seen that top in front of mind of analysts. Barclays is very bullish on that. That said, we saw Jeffries reporting, and so far it's been a disappointment. So that's one reason. Perhaps some on Wall Street are worried about the banking earnings. We've seen some positive news. We saw a glimpse of Citigroup and JP Morgan trading. Seems like things are looking very good in terms of profitability. So Jeffries, obviously what we saw is like disappointment in margin expansion in investment banking revenue. So
Lo estoy mirando a ver si cómo reaccione de ahí. Si me dan cera para comprar,
big boost to that.
hasta esos high lo voy a coger.
Yeah, and higher rates maybe helps them as well. Did we show the market cap chart yet?
Todavía.
Market cap chart yet?
Todavía espero.
Striking. Okay, 3 trillion this week, 4.3 trillion worth of companies reporting next week. But in 3 weeks, here you go. Look at that, $22.4 trillion
Tech companies.
worth of companies. I mean, it's just unbelievable that market cap like that exists. And it's not the entire market, right? I guess Nvidia is going to be there, Apple's going to be there, all of the Mag 7 can move that needle. But what do we expect?
Yeah, for sure. So we've seen a lot of volatility in markets, which I think we have to feature in, even when it comes to banks earnings. Obviously, now we're pricing close to 1 or 0 rate cuts next year. So all that bullish sentiment towards banks, of course, is dependent on that.
Vamos a ver si deja ese gap ahí.
All those big tech names, we're worried about valuations. They're very high, they're elevated, and when yields are approaching 5%, investors think
Voy a traer cuando
and perhaps
si me da la oportunidad.
be as nice when they react to
Tengo que esperar que
surprises. We have Netflix.
me rompa.
Seems obviously had a really big rally last year. Wells Fargo is very bullish, still overlay. So evaluation is still
A mí me gusta.
American Airlines had a
Aquí entro.
we've seen optimism about it next year. We see so many price upgrades. So for now, volatility markets hasn't translated into much worry, but we're yet to see. Bloomberg seems to say, Carla, we thank you for keeping an eye out on all of this. Of course, saw the VIX over 20 yesterday.
Yes, I did.
Volatility seeping into the markets even before earnings really get started.
Si no me da la entrada, está bien, yo me quedo. No me voy a desesperar.
HSBC to broaden up
Quiero que venga aquí para poder entrar.
and private banking.
Si no me quedo,
Beholden to big
no tengo que estar en todos los movimientos.
most of the gains
Si no busco la venta ahí arriba,
that we've seen has faced pushback, particularly in rates still edge higher. Where's that?
voy a entrar con 3.
That's great. So I would say what we've been sharing with our clients is we talked about the Santa Claus revenue that we expected for the fourth quarter that did not happen. So that has caused a little bit of angst, in the markets. But what we told people is even with the Fed rate cuts, which we just debated right now, maybe a little lower than we originally anticipated, we're still bullish on the equity markets. And to your point, when we take a look at the S&P overall and we look at corporate earnings, again, pretty strong. So we take this year, we ended at 9.4% in corporate earnings year over year. We're predicting about 14.8% in 2025. That's slightly down from 15%.
It's
To be
still
clear,
high.
it's still a lot.
You don't expect that bar to get lowered as we get further into the year?
So I don't think it's a little far this low, but to that point around the tech,
De la entrada.
it's really the widening out.
No sé si me la va a dar, vamos a ver.
If we take a look at the Mag 7, about 23% up this year. We're probably
That's so high.
down close to 18%.
Ya yo entraría aquí.
Widening out of that sector.
A ver, riesgo.
Gotten 493 will start to rise. And that was about 4% gain for those 493. We're
No way.
predicting close to 15% for them this year. So it is still that tech sector, but it's
Me va a dejar.
as you just said, market cap.
Me va a dejar. No me deje.
So the opportunity for more to drive.
Me quedé.
I'd like to compare this time period to the 90s, in the same time period, which is that tech evolution.
It's okay.
We went through that with the .com.
There'll be more trades.
We saw a lot of the same behavior we're seeing today. What comes out of this is productivity drives profitability, which really
Si se lleve high y no me lo da, entonces yo no.
in the tech sector.
Me quedé fuera.
While at the same time, we're not going to see that level of Fed cut rates that we originally talked about, but it's going to be less about that because it's really going to be the productivity.
And it's okay.
I mean, the problem with the 90s was we spent so much money to lay down fiber, right? The infrastructure of the internet, which we're all happy to use today, it's very profitable 25 years later, was too expensive at the start, and we saw that bubble burst. Do you expect the same thing to happen to the AI bubble? If this is a bubble, the AI bubble right now?
So we're definitely at the bubble depth. We're such at the early inning stages of AI, right? And that's really where you're seeing all the companies that are now aligning to AI and figuring out how to use it. There's going to be lots of false starts, and there are going to be those that really hit it. So just like in the .com era, right? Not every .com, made it. You've got to pick the right winners. But you're right. We're going to be in a period of really figuring out how core corporates embrace AI as well as the tech sector. The beautiful thing about AI is way beyond tech. It's every sector embracing AI and figuring how best it's going to help them drive productivity and profit. I also want to talk about
No volvió.
because we are starting to.
He sure does want to talk about it.
Listen, this is a trade I want to pull up the KBW Bank Index (BKX).
Vamos a tiempo todavía.
Because after November 5th, you did see a sharp leg higher in a lot of optimism that rules will be revised, lighter, but a lot of that has been wiped away if we take a look. And it's interesting, over 6 months, every stock in that index was in the green, and then you've seen stocks start to turn negative in the last 3 months. Is the optimism fading? Are the gains already priced in? So the gains are not priced in. I don't think the optimism is fading. I think the reality is, as we know, in January, you're always going to see this volatility, right? So let's just embrace volatility. But ultimately, if you look at the sector, there's indication that this administration coming in really has an impact on this sector. And so to me, it's kind of wait and see. Because the administration can say a lot of things. The question is, will they do? And two things that are going to be a big catalyst, right? We all know deregulation, especially the Basel III, right? The ability for banks to not put that much money in reserves will absolutely hit profitability. You add to that corporate tax cuts, right? These are statements. So, like the market, you want to watch and see will the administration do those things, and that's the reason why you're seeing a little pause.
Si se lleve high, se invalida.
those have not even been priced in, right? So that's the benefit.
Estaba observando.
Talking about the strong corporate earnings, right? So if corporates are that strong, then you have this other piece. If the administration does what they say, there is an opportunity for banks to do well. What we are all pausing for, though, is that use of how the administration is going to implement tariffs. That is an important piece, right? As deportations. And deportations, right? The two go together. So again, the administration is unknown. Lots of statements made. What actually happens, we don't know. And I think we all are pricing it in.
Está reaccionando de aquí, so, pueda que no baje aquí ahora. Pero si no baja ahí, yo no lo voy a coger de trade.
Nobody believes deportations are going to happen in size because everybody
Mínimo aquí yo entraría.
neglects to mention it, but it was part of the campaign. Tom Holder seems pretty serious about it.
There are a lot of things that were part of the campaign. And so that is my point, right? And the idea here is one, the markets and the fundamentals, thankfully, are strong. If the administration steps in and does the things that they talked about, there's possibilities that certain sectors will do very well. But again, it's a watch and see.
Right. All right, Raquel, great having you here with us in the studio. Thanks so much for coming in. Raquel Horton there from HSBC. Coming up, we'll talk about Elon Musk. Could he be the next owner of TikTok, or on that possibility for the social media app next?
Está reaccionando de este gap. Pueda que reacciones de ahí se lo lleve con ese gap. Se le convirtió en verde ahí.
Live Go, or for our blog, TLIV Go on the terminal. This is Bloomberg.
Who the Medal of Honor for heroic actions in combating the Libra Iraq. Yogi Belleville writes the following. He is fearless.
Como se ve en 5 minutos, se ve fuerte. Yo voy a estar buscando eso de allá arriba. Voy a tratar de entrar con algo que sea razonable. Pueda que... ahora no, hay que ver. Pueda que no venga para acá.
In case you missed it, on Bloomberg, the China show, what's been the sentiment, what's been the reaction to this U.S. election outcome on the ground?
They're pretty much ready for Donald Trump. There was a high expectation that he could return to the White House. We have dealt with him before. A few years, China simply is better prepared. Psychological system is much more prepared than you're dealing with him again.
A veces simplemente esperar nada más. Y si no te da lo que tú buscas, no desesperarte porque ahí vienen toda la emoción y te atacan. No, como le dije, yo lo tengo claro. Si llega ahí, yo lo cojo.
Don't miss the China show live every weekend.
India's at the forefront of some of the world's biggest stories. I'm Sherrian in Tokyo, and I'm Heidi Stragler here in Sydney where the trading day begins. We're here in Central the action to get you set up with the numbers, news, and knowledge you need for the day ahead.
We've been on this in-depth coverage. We've been waiting for this moment.
The opportunity of the century.
Join us on Bloomberg VHS3, weekdays only on Bloomberg TV. Context changes everything.
Bloomberg loves earnings.
I know it's like your Super Bowl, right?
Can't wait. It's like opening presents in the
All right, it will be exciting.
Nobody covers earnings like Bloomberg.
Bloomberg Surveillance covers the latest in global markets and the political events that influence your world. Join Jonathan Farrow, Lisa Abramowitz, and Anne-Marie Bourdon only on Bloomberg. Context changes everything. From our studios in New York and San Francisco, our expert hosts have the data and analysis from the companies you know and the startups to watch, plus the interviews you don't want to miss. Watch Caroline Hyde and Ed Ludlow on Bloomberg Technology, the only daily business show dedicated to tech, right in the middle of the trading action. Live every weekday, only on Bloomberg Television. Context changes everything.
Eso como de coger uno ahí. por lo menos, pero eso me mantiene entonces indisciplinado. So, yo no puedo estar como con esa indecisión. Yo sé que aquí es que a mí me gustaría comprar eso. Tengo que mantenerme con esa disciplina, man. Y créeme, lo que a veces se entra el FOMO, que tú no quieres perder el movimiento. Pero vamos a veces perder el movimiento y no violar tus reglas.
Tempered in most segments. Firm also says tariffs could weigh on China business, Macau in particular. And finally, Bank America is cutting ag giant Archer Daniels to
Ok, yo lo veo que puede llegar ahí.
profitability outlook has soured considerably over the past few months, with risks stemming from the U.S. election. Alan?
That's another Bloomberg scoop. TikTok owner ByteDance evaluating a potential option for the popular app's U.S. operations to TikTok. Sources say that one of them is selling to Elon Musk. For more on this, we're joined by Bloomberg Technology co-host Caroline Hyde. Something I've been thinking about a lot is, okay, who would want this to happen? Because if you are China and you are frustrated with the U.S. and the back and forth on TikTok, would China want Musk to be buying it because they're already entangled?
China might, and I'm still correct in the introduction plans. It's not ByteDance that wants this. ByteDance wants the opposite. ByteDance does not want to be selling TikTok under any duress, and indeed they want to keep hold of it, probably just with banning.
Well, and China doesn't want ByteDance to sell either. This is just in case.
In case, and this is the Chinese government from Bloomberg sourcing, potentially trying to work out what are the scenarios that fall out if indeed the Supreme Court does stand by the current Congress, nor that this is going to be banned or sold. So China is thinking, there is an interesting person that we rather respect, who has a lot of presence in China.
Order filled.
Ya se me ha entrado.
One, Elon Musk. Oh goodness.
No te creas.
Social media company. Wow, he also has a really strong AI presence. He could benefit from owning this algorithm. And remember, China has such sway because even though they don't have ownership of ByteDance, even though, of course, TikTok's gone to great lengths to say that the Chinese government is a safe distance, they do have the ruling on if indeed an algorithm is sold.
Si no lo respeta, entonces yo voy a estar buscando una venta. Si no lo respeta ahí. Pero está supuesto, si quieres romper cejas, respetarlo.
Initially, Donald Trump wanted to ban TikTok. In fact, he acted to ban TikTok.
Yo me voy a quedar tranquilo.
And that Congress, both the Democrats and
Me velo en 15 segundos.
ban TikTok because they're worried China could use that algorithm to spread misinformation or stir up social unrest. They're worried that the Chinese could use that information, the data, to blackmail or intimidate Americans. And they're worried that China could use software updates, ByteDance, I'll say, and China in the same breath because it's China, could use software updates to sneak malware into our phones and computers.
National security risks.
Exactly.
Which at the moment are outweighing to the Supreme Court the right to free speech, which is actually Elon Musk is a big proponent of, and why back in April he put on his own social media platform X that he didn't want TikTok to be sold because he thinks that speech should remain and free in the United States.
Well, I mean, you're a contributor to TikTok as well as Instagram, right? You can say whatever you want. You can't say it on a Chinese platform.
ByteDance cannot be China because they now have U.S. investors as well, some of which are very close to Donald Trump.
Yeah, yes.
Exactly.
Ya él usó. So ya está supuesto
And so that's, we have
mantenerse.
He's also got a bid, and he actually doesn't want the algorithm. It's an interesting point. But ultimately, if this is going to be worth 40 to 50 billion, which is what Bloomberg Intelligence thinks it could be worth, 30 to 50 billion, well, that will at least be some value going to the US investor base, which also includes General Catalyst, Sequoia, other key players have been in this. So I'm sure.
Entra en la hora macro ahora. So.
And they suddenly exit the US and they'll still have remaining money and value in ByteDance. Remember, they
Ahí está bien está.
And I've spoken to investors who actually
Si me sacan, entonces estaré esperando otro trade.
because they think, look, TikTok's going to grow like wildfire, whether it's in the United States or not. It's only got like 20% of its revenue coming from the US. It could just continue to scale elsewhere and leave US TikTok for us.
So it's interesting that Trump tried to ban this, and federal courts overturned that on free speech grounds. Now, I guess it's because of Jeff Yass's support, right? He's given at least $8 million to GOP congressional and gubernatorial candidates that Trump changed his opinion? Or is it that Barron said, I like TikTok, Dad?
Your guess is as good as mine, but also maybe it was at the time his rather general, obvious loathing for Meta, Mark Zuckerberg. Now, times have changed. Mark Zuckerberg has been doing an awful lot to try and align the business of Meta more in time with the next president and the White House. Look, it's just put Dana White on the board. We've seen that they're removing some of their oversight of speech on the platform, certainly no more fact checking. And so people might say that, look, with his presence in Mar-a-Lago,
Ahí está bien, si me saca ahí está bien.
at all things Instagram, but that originally was Trump's issue, I think.
No voy a estar peleando con él.
To galvanize a young vote, and he likes TikTok, special place in his heart. The Mar-a-Lago effect on Meta is going to be something to behold as we watch.
That's an interesting segment in itself because a lot of people around Zuckerberg say he already was bustling to break free of these sort of woke, liberal constraints, and this has just given him an excuse to do it.
And is it a fiduciary duty to align yourself with the next administration? It's also pretty obvious. Or patriotism. Anyways, Carol, for more on that story and Bloomberg Technology at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. There's a lot to break down for it. Now, coming up, deal making has been off to such a hard start in 2025. We're going to take a look at the M&A landscape next. In today's Wall Street Beat. This is Bloomberg.
Algo que no me gusta, que está durando mucho. Y cuando el precio entra en un premier fair value gap, tú quieres que reaccione rápido. So, yo voy a estar ahí como manteniendo mi riesgo lo más bajo que pueda, porque ya si baja de ahí otra vez, yo no quiero tener este movimiento. Y ahí está supuesto que si va a hacer lo que va a hacer, que lo haga.
Order filled.
Sí. Eso pasa.
Order filled.
Yo voy a poner mi riesgo aquí. Ya lo más probable es que se vaya a llevar eso low. Ahí, sí, yo voy a estar observando. No lo está respetando. So, esos son los que voy a estar mirando.
We'll debate the most important stories and what will drive the big investment decisions throughout the morning. I'm Dan Johnson.
I'm Priya Gupta. And I'm Anna Edwards. Join us every weekday morning for the opening trade, live at 7 a.m. here in London.
Only on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
Get your fixed income fix. Watch Bloomberg Real Yield around the world right here on Bloomberg. Context changes everything.
Time now for the Wall Street Beat. Today we're looking at the fantastic work that our own deals team has been doing because they've been breaking news left and right. We're going to talk about the deals that are coming through the pipeline. Joining us now, Bloomberg's Liana Baker leads the
Order filled.
stage. We have James.
Ya vamos a mover aquí. Y ya maneja el resto.
Look at what's happening to
Hasta los lows.
What are people talking about most? Well, it's funny. Honeywell didn't announce a deal yet. We're expecting that
Aquí voy a sacar otro.
big breakup, which is really the trend among industrial companies, but not all industrial companies. It's funny you mentioned J&J. 2023, they did a break off in their consumer business, and that gives them the firepower to do deals like they did this week when they bought Intracellular, which makes drugs that treat mental illness and schizophrenia and other depressive disorders.
Yeah, when I said Intracellular, I was thinking about helicopters, but then I read deeper into your story. And is it widely expected that you're going to see far more deals this year? Because there was one Bloomberg opinion writer, Chris Hughes, who said, hold on, not so fast. But everyone else that we've spoken to on this show says
So it's been a great 2025 so far, but M&A is a momentum game. You have to look when deals get announced. Are the stocks of the acquirers going up? If we see that happen on every deal, especially these stock transactions, that's a sign that boards and CEOs are going to get more comfortable with acquisitions. But it's too early to say we could sustain this momentum all year. But certainly it's been great for advisors and M&A reporters because
Yo me voy a cerrar aquí.
and also the first few days of the year, we also saw things like Getty Images, find merger partner with Shutterstock. And that was interesting because those are in the same
Yo puedo ponerme aquí y esperar todo ese movimiento hacia abajo, pero
that we directly compete with. That could be a game.
no sé si valga la pena.
What's so interesting is that the spin-off index for Bloomberg has just been soaring. It's 88% higher than it's been 52 weeks ago. Constellation Energy on the top of that list, GE, Vernova. If you see companies pursuing spin-offs doing this well, then are more activists just kind of knocking at the door right now and saying the spin-off strategy works. Time to get organized, time to get leaner. It might work, but then you have to consider, are all the targets used up? How many more spin-offs could really happen before, for something to move the needle? For Elliott Management, which has a lot of money, but they put a $5 billion position into Honeywell. There's not many companies that could, garner these huge investments. So we'll be watching that. And there's definitely targets out there to look at.
All right, Leanna, I guess we're going to be seeing a lot more of you this year, which is good news for us. Leanna Baker there running the deal.
Order filled.
Me voy a salir porque
Katie Greifeld,
está en el gap de un primer día,
Cisco,
cuando abrió el día. Y ese gap es bien poderoso. Él puede usarlo. Cuando este gap se vuelve inverted para abajo, va a ser fuerte el movimiento. Pero voy a esperar porque yo puedo ver un retracement fuerte para arriba. Para personas que no entran aquí, darle la oportunidad.
Order filled.
Vamos a ver. Hasta los lows. Mi último try.
What legacy I would love is make sure my village have infrastructure. So long when I'm gone, things are still working, and I have done my job. And if some people get inspired through my work and they try to engage themselves for their community and create something that is inspiring for everyone, I will be happy.
What's the best piece of advice you would give to someone young who wants to make a difference in architecture or
Well, I'm not the right one to just do that.
I think you are.
Yeah. So with the pressure you have, and then you try to be the good one, the fancy guy, the intellectual one. I have no advice then to believe in yourself and really work hard. When I started, no one would have imagined that I would be able to see my name connected with Aga Khan or Priska or sitting in Bloomberg talk about sustainability, about future of sales. No, myself 5 years ago, if you told me that, I would say no. I would never imagine. So I will encourage
Order filled.
Mm.
doing. I'm not trying to run after the newest of the newest. Just be consistent. Just work on things that matter for you. Really, at the long term,
Order
Ya
filled.
me fui. Me voy a laquear. Porque estoy tomando decisiones que no son razonables. Ya yo me salí aquí, so ya yo no tengo que estar buscando otra entrada.
Under surveillance with
Y
and expert analysis at terminal speed. Nobody covers jobs day like Bloomberg.
Is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Deborah Rodriguez. Cheers and boos for President-elect Trump's controversial defense secretary pick, Pete Hegseth. Hegseth, as he entered the Senate chamber a half an hour ago for his confirmation hearing. Armed Services Committee Chair Roger Wicker.
Admittedly, this nomination is unconventional.
ahí se puso en verde, fair value gap ahí. So, una buena entrada, vamos a decir aquí. A seguir el movimiento hacia abajo, hacia los lados.
Ranking Democrat Jack Reed.
Si pueden ver que en la temporalidad de un día estamos bajistas. So, yo simplemente pues o sea, no tengo esa capacidad todavía para aguantar un trade hacia el objetivo. Y es algo que lo tengo claro, yo sé que es algo que tengo que trabajar, pero todavía no tengo como eso todavía, imagino. Vendrá algún día con el tiempo. Ahí sería otro trade. Voy a buscar los lows. A seguir eso como un continuation. Y yo me salí aquí por esto porque hay mucho volumen. Porque yo sé que de aquí él puede dar un retracement grande también. Y puede venir a visitar todo esto que yo no quiero. O sea, para acá otra vez. Ya tú como no quiero como que vuelva aquí. Yo estando en el movimiento todavía. So, para eso mejor quise como salirme aquí. Y si daba el retroceso quería entrar aquí. Pero cuando vi que rompió aquí, yo estoy viendo como que probable que ya de aquí hay reacciones para romper el low y llegar al fair value gap. Como este es el gap del día, ya como que se devolvió y rompió con el cuerpo lleno. So, por eso yo entré ahí, pero me salí porque, o sea, hay muchas emociones. Todavía la pude controlar porque salí mejor del trade y no me quedé con el greed de querer ver el precio que se lleve ese low. Porque antes de llevarse ese low, como le dije, puede dar su retroceso y volver a esta área de aquí otra vez. So, imagínate que yo me había quedado en ese trade, me había sacado ya. So, puede entonces que de aquí a ahora él caiga. Mira, hay un gap ahí también. So, tú tienes que ver como también lo que está haciendo en la temporalidad más pequeña. Porque eso te va diciendo mucho de la narrativa del precio. Aquí también mira como adentro del primer fair value gap hay un inverted fair value gap. So, ahí puede usar este o como puede venir aquí también y cae. Son muchas cosas que uno tiene que tener en cuenta y mirar en el precio. Que ahora él puso este inverted. So, ahora hasta para comprar eso es una buena compra aquí. So, si el precio viene aquí, y es porque yo estoy mirando los dos índices, que está S&P 500 y lo voy a coger mi demo de aquí. Voy a mirar el demo mío aquí. So, como le dije yo, con pues sí, yo voy a estar mirando este de aquí. Se convirtió en verde y se convirtió en vaina. O sea, tú puedes coger una entrada aquí hasta para retracement. Una compra, que diga. Es arriesgosa porque en contra de lo que el precio quiere hacer ahora mismo, que llevarse ese low. Pero es un retracement que tú vas a entrar. O sea, tú no vas a entrar a casarte para llevarse de que eso high, sino tú buscas como un riesgo-beneficio que haga sentido. So, vamos a decir ahí, y tú pones tu stop ahí. Eso sería como, o sea, es muy pequeño, o sea, yo ni lo cogería.
Customer captured the moment a police officer pulled a wild coyote
Ni lo
out of a
cogería.
refrigerated case at Aldi's after the animal wandered into the parking lot and inside. One of officers used boots to get him out. Deborah Rodriguez, CBS News.
Porque pueda que ES no se lleve este low, pero yo veo como que NASDAQ se puede llevar este low. Porque ES no se llevó este high, pero el NASDAQ puede llevarse el low. Y después de aquí puede que un retracement. Entonces, deja ver qué hace. Yo le doy gracias a Dios que yo me salí ya, que yo hice lo que tengo que hacer. Porque el trading te crea como mucha ansiedad, mucho estrés. Y eso porque yo soy nuevo, no tengo muchos años de que haciendo esto. Pero yo sé que algún día como que ya va a ser normal. Y, y no va a ser tan intenso así como lo es ahora. So, tú puedes ver en temporalidades más pequeñas. Ya ese es el gap del día. Ese es el gap del día que vino a cerrar. Pero en temporalidad más grande, vamos a decir como una hora, todavía se ve como que lo violó el precio, o sea, como que lo manipuló. So, para mí, ya lo más probable es que esta sesión y siga cayendo. Ese es mi bias, ese es mi manera de verlo. Mira, hay un oro black aquí, pero él puede seguir aquí arriba también. So, pero yo prefería ya como ahora mismo como lo veo, tú lo ves en un minuto, él puede seguir comprando ya. Y deja ver cómo se ve el S&P 500. Porque ese pequeño high que tú ves ahí, el S&P 500 no se lo llevó, pero el Nasdaq se lo llevó. Yo estaba viendo todo eso, por eso aquí yo entré como quiera, porque estoy viendo esa liquidez de ahí, a ver si él quiere seguir subiendo. Pero maneje el riesgo la mejor manera posible, porque ya si no reaccionó de aquí, se quedó tanto tiempo, entonces manipularme aquí abajo, ya lo más probable que va a caer. Y por eso entré de una vez ahí mismo, en este candle. Yo puse mi stop aquí porque podía devolverse hacia un wiki y caer, pero si fuera a seguir vendiendo, vendería de ahí ya. Vamos a decir, para llevarse solo. Hoy en un mercado, o una de esas sesiones que el mercado va a ser manipulado y muchos de los niveles que uno tiene no van a ser respetados por la noticia. Porque mira, él todavía está en el rango de la noticia. O sea, él no ha salido de este rango todavía. So, ni ha manipulado ninguno de los dos lados. So, es una sesión que si tú no has hecho dinero ya todavía o no has entrado en un trade, es mejor salir de la sesión o esperar que rompa uno de esos highs o lows, o el high o el low, y ver si te da un setup de ahí en adelante. Porque es una sesión, como le dije, que va a ser manipulada. Los niveles tuyos no lo va a respetar como usualmente lo hace. Y ya yo lo voy a dejar aquí. Yo lo voy a dejar hasta aquí ya.
In doing so, we will reestablish trust in our military, addressing the recruiting crisis, retention crisis, and readiness crisis in our branch.
Mira, como aquí podía hacer una entrada, pero no bajó y nunca la dio. Él no está respetando los niveles usualmente como debería.
Here it's like
No lo está respetando para nada.
quickly to get these protesters out of that.
No, yo lo voy a dar aquí ya. No voy a seguir viendo nada de esto porque
Performing the acquisitions process